Well, continuing this week with the banking situation in Europe, we were talking about the fact that the bankers get together and, in secret, decide the future of the economy of Europe. The danger of that is that it also reflects on the banking in the United States. One of the things that has happened now is that the bankers in Europe have decided that they are going to have a complete control, an overview control over the major banks of Europe. They are exempting the smaller banks at this time. However, the larger banks always control the smaller banks, if nothing else than in policy and the arrangements that they make. But at any rate, just to give you an idea, the Draghi, the president of the European Central Bank, said the agreement, and this is an agreement to have complete control over all the banks under one head, on banking supervision was, quote, an important step towards a stable economic and monetary union and toward further European integration. So what we see, therefore, is a complete integration of the economy of Europe into one. It was the goal of Caesar. It was the goal of Charlemagne. It was the goal of Napoleon. It was the goal of Hitler. It was the goal of Stalin, and now it has become the goal and a reality, at least almost complete reality, of the European Union. And everybody sits back and talks about democracy, not realizing that in the long run, these individuals will have a say-so over what their lives will be like in the future. For instance, the new regulations that are coming into effect this weekend in Europe, which will curtail the ability of the average European to move money outside of Europe. This is a real problem. We also have that problem in the United States. We live in supposedly a free country, and yet we are regulated that, to the point where we can't take a certain amount of money outside of the country without declaring it. If we do, it is illegal, and we can be prosecuted as a result. So yeah, it's your money, but it's got to stay here, is the attitude of the American government. Unless you're a big industrialist, and then of course you can do whatever you wish and build factories in Mexico and China and Russia and so on and so forth. But at any rate, the whole idea is that it is a controlling factor. Now, I know all of you had the ability to vote on such things. You went down to your polling place and decided that, no, I don't want the ability to be able to leave my country with any kind of money. I'm sure the Europeans did that too. No, they were just told one morning in their newspapers that this is the way it is, live with it. So much for a democracy. But at any rate, those are the things that are going on. And it is the internationalization of all of this banking that is a particular problem for us in the United States. As I pointed out, the first step was to communize these countries and then internationalize them into a one world government under communism. And that plank number 5 of the Communist Manifesto was the centralization of banking and credit. The next step, therefore, after that, would be the internationalization of this central bank to an international central bank. And that's what we see being consolidated in Europe. We also see the attempt of trying to do it with a North American Union and ultimately with a free trade area of the Pacific. And all of these things are accumulating more and more power over the economy. And that means over your life and my life, because the economic situation is our life. We have no control over it. We see the fiscal cliff. Well, the fiscal cliff, we went over that cliff several years ago. It's just now showing up that we're reaching the bottom of the fall. But we went over the precipice many, many years ago because people wouldn't listen to the John Birch Society, people like Ron Paul and others, saying you can't continue to spend and spend and borrow and borrow. It's going to catch up with you one day. And when it catches up with you, it will not only be the economic fall, it will be the controls that come from government as a result. They all have an agenda. The New York Times even has one. Here's one, New York Times Curtain Up, and it shows a new Broadway play. All these are men, by the way, in tutus. I'll leave it up to you what their agenda is. One of the things that is very disturbing lately, and it is a continuing theme since the day after the election, and that is that they have the articles trying to convince us that the conservative movement is passé, it's waning, it's on its way out. Here's one, for instance, the Chicago Tribune, DeMint exit, a new blow to Tea Party. Well, it's not a blow to the Tea Party, but they keep, even in this morning's New York Times, Tea Party, its clout diminished, narrows focus. And so this is on the front page on their online edition, and I'm assuming it's probably on their front page of their hard copy edition as well. And here is Fergus Cullen, former chairman of the New Hampshire Republican Party. He blamed a backlash against tinfoil hat issues pushed by the Tea Party-dominated legislature in New Hampshire for the loss last month of Republican majorities in both chambers in New Hampshire. Now, they have a two-pronged attack, trying to convince you to kind of just go home and not do anything anymore. One is that the election illustrates that the Tea Party movement is waning, it's over, it's lost its punch. And the other thing is that the only way that the Tea Party movement can survive is to get rid of the crazies out of it. Mainly what they mean is to separate themselves from any influence of the John Birch Society. Now, that is the crux of the theme, if you will, that's been thrown out there. One, it's over, you've got to change, and you've got to change by getting rid of any influence of the John Birch Society and constitutionalism. In other words, the subtle message is you've got to become more socialist in order to become more successful at the polls. If it is the intention to move our government back to a constitutionally limited government, compromising is not the route to victory. The route to victory is educating and organizing enough people to understand how things are wrong and the solutions needed to rectify them. They are afraid of you organizing to the level of being able to defeat them and ultimately defeating them at the polls as a result. And so don't get demoralized. I'm going to talk extensively on this particular subject in the February bulletin of the John Birch Society, and I invite you to read it at that time. Just remember, do not become demoralized. I've seen too many people who are talking about leaving the country. Where? None of them have the same destination. And if we lose the fight for liberty in this country, there will be no country on earth immune from totalitarianism. What's keeping the world free, at least to the level it is yet today, is the American people. And these are the individuals we have to work on. Not flee the country, not give up, not say it's all over, not succumb to all the rhetoric on TV and in the newspapers telling you that it's all over. It's not all over until we give up. And we don't mean to do that by any means. We can win this. We will win this if we just get enough people understanding they have to get involved. Until next week, we'll see you then.